Okay, we are once again talking about real estate lead generation systems ranked categorically. So this time we're going to talk about real estate lead generation systems that can or do leverage what's called pay-per-click as one of their primary methods of driving people into that platform. Like the website. I call it a platform because to me it's just a platform. But lots of companies, like literally almost all 12 of the companies listed on the website, my own included, can do pay-per-click fairly well. Like this is a tough category to talk about. So I'm going to do my best to say what my reasons were for the list. I'm only going to include 5 names. Mine isn't even on it, though we can do a good return on pay-per-click should you use our platform. But I'll explain why I didn't list myself and why I listed these other companies. So Real Geeks, about 8-9 years ago, was actually started by Jeff, the founder of the company, because he wanted a good, reasonable, in terms of expense, solution to drive pay-per-click. And if you don't know what pay-per-click is, it's the Google method of advertising. So if I do South Charleston real estate as an example, probably at the bottom of the page, somewhere on the page. It's interesting. Let's do not seeing pay-per-click because there's usually an ad. So let's do homes for sale by, well, let's do homes for sale Los Angeles. All right, here we go. So this right here is an ad. That's a pay-per-click ad. And what it's going to drive you to is what's called the landing page. And why is it called the landing page? Because it's the page that people land on. Now, I'm not going to click on this because it would cost that person or company money, probably a lot of it, probably $3-4 if I clicked on it. So I'm not going to do that. But I'll show you what historically a landing page is. Do you guys see this right here where it says search carp realtor -Los Angeles _ homes? The reason that that URL is so descriptive is because Google is going to give you extra credit if you have a, if the URL said, for instance, city name homes for sale, and then you come to a page and it has city name homes for sale on the page, and then they can read these listings, they will quickly identify that what your landing page said you were supposed to be delivering was delivered. And they give you extra credit, which means they make your ad more prominent. Okay, so instead of maybe being in these last 3, you would be in these top 2. And when your ad gets more prominence, you get more clicks, and you get to use your budget faster, which is better for everybody. It's better for Google, better for you. So there's a method to doing pay-per-click. That method is easily supported by this platform that Jeff built because that was the only reason that he built it. Additionally, the way that these Real Geeks websites are designed, you can see that this page is supposed to be about condos, right? And once again, I've taken pretty much one of the top Real Geek sites that exists. And it's top because it's super specific. And when you look at this, you guys see this list? These are all condominium buildings. So when somebody arrives at this list hoping to find information on Myrtle Beach residential condos, my goodness, do they have choices. They've got condos by type, oceanfront, South Beach, residential, So areas, golf condos. So they've basically broken it out into area and type. And then they've even gone so far as to broken it out into specific condominium buildings. And that kind of specificity is exactly what would get you results for your pay-per-click dollars. Now, Real Geeks has designed a platform where it's relatively easy for the owner of the website to add these links. They're not sexy. It's not a greatly, like a well-styled page. But if all your intention was to deliver specific information and a good search experience, this page absolutely does the trick. Another thing about pay-per-click, which is not my favorite thing about it, but it's something that you have to do. Do you see this? Real Geek sites come set up out of the box so that you click on a single property and you're forced into a registration page. Okay? Most PPC sites have this functionality in place. I do not on my sites, which is why I am not in the top 5 on these PPC sites. On my sites that are not set up this way. I have excellent landing pages, just like they do, but I am not trying to do specificity in the way that they're doing it with all these links on the page. And one thing that I will never do, because I could build a page like this and I wouldn't feel poorly about it, I've built them before, but one thing I won't do is that forced lead registration right when you hit the page. Now, if you're going to spend these advertising dollars, like $1,000 a month as an average budget inside of real estate, you kind of want to get as many registrations as you possibly can. So if your primary driver of leads is going to be pay-per-click, you want exactly how this Real Geeks website is set up. What's even better is that they set them up like this for you. That's what they were originally designed for. They can do other things, like they can do Facebook marketing, they can do other kinds of things, but this site was always designed to work in conjunction specifically with real estate pay-per-click. And because of that, and the extremely low cost, it's $800 to buy the site, and $200 a month to manage it. Now, there's time that goes into setting up these pages. This was done by either the owner of the website or they spent additional money with a Real Geeks recommended vendor. Because Real Geeks doesn't do this directly, but they'll give you the names and numbers of some people that will. And then you have to go out and collect all this data. They're not going to do that for you. You're going to have to figure out what you want to target, but they can add it to the site for you. But still, even with all of that taken into account, Real Geeks has got to be number 1 on my list of PPC-driven websites for all the factors that I mentioned. They were designed for it originally. They come set up for it out of the box. They design really great landing pages. The URL methodology, that's this up here, is good. And most Real Geek sites, that's because they have in their documentation, they're instructing you how you want to set these sites up. They also have a YouTube channel that covers in depth. They've got 79 videos last I counted, where there's individuals who own these sites who are talking about how they set them up and what their experience has been, and how they've been profitable. Jeff used to do those videos himself. Now he's since sold the company, and I haven't really seen much coming from him. I'm sure he just went back to selling real estate in Hawaii, which is really overall what he wanted to be doing in the first place. However, that doesn't change the fact that he built a good marketing company with a good product. I personally would say that even though you could see some examples of these sites doing well in SEO and things like that, that they're second in class at best in almost every other category now to other products that are out there. However, because they've consistently maintained one of the lowest costs to set these things up, it's still an excellent company to look at. And if all you were going to do was do pay-per-click and drive it into a site and hope that it was going to be successful, I might very well start with a Real Geek site, because it's lower in cost than everything else. And it was designed for that originally, and the CRM collects information seamlessly. It text messages you. It does all the basic functionality that you want. There's other systems that nurture leads better. There's other systems that do lots of other things better. But I don't know that anybody else necessarily works better for PPC. Second on my list is Ylopo, who just actually got into pay-per-click as a method. They started focusing on Facebook. That's what Ylopo originally did. Now they have the option of doing Facebook or Google. And the reason those two are important is that Facebook has changed its rules about how much information you are allowed to access from their users in terms of marketing to them. You've probably read about that in the news. What you may not know is that it pretty much guarantees that marketers can't deliver quite the same quality of leads that they used to deliver, and Facebook was never delivering leads that were as good as pay-per-click anyway, because these leads tend to have higher intent. A user saying homes for sale in Los Angeles is oftentimes better than a user that clicked on some random link that says, what is my home worth, on Facebook. And they could very well just be curious. And there's not much you can do about that. Even if somebody is looking at a specific listing and you force them to register on Facebook, which is one method that is used by Ylopo, you're still not guaranteed a very high intent lead. There's nothing they can do about that. So you are forced yourself as the user of these systems to sort through these leads and figure out who's serious and who's not. Slightly higher percentages of people are going to always be more serious, or at least in our current environment, off Facebook. Off Google. So, but what Ylopo has done, and the reason they're number 2, they don't have these great landing pages. So you'd think, well, Robert, why are you even listing them? Well, they're still better at the support systems than anybody else is. And support is things like remarketing and qualifying the leads. They have an information verification system that they have running in the background. So there's things that they're doing with the lead. Any of us could do it. We just haven't set it up inside our system, whereas Ylopo has. And so you not only get first iteration leads, like where they're coming and registering with the site, but as a standard item on their packages, they give you a chance to do remarketing, which is where an ad follows you around for weeks, depending on how much of a user of the internet you are. So there are ads constantly popping up every site that you go to. So oftentimes you get visits from the same lead 2 or 3 times that you would normally miss, which gives you 2 or 3 more opportunities for that lead to register. And if they've seen you 3 separate times, it does tend to be a stronger lead. So, and then they register. So remarketing is important. And last but not least, and this is the thing that Ylopo has blown the doors off of, they also they're calling it Raya. It's just an automated text messaging system. They're calling it AI. It deserves to be called AI. They've got 300 or 400 signals built inside the search process, so that each of these signals triggers a particular kind of text. It turns into a very aggressive text messaging system connected to once a lead has registered with your system. It doesn't matter whether it's a Facebook lead or a Google lead. Those text messages make it 30 or 40% more likely that you might get a response out of a lead, like somebody raising their hand is commonly what we say in the lead industry, and starting a communication with you. Now, some of those communications are, stop fucking texting me. But a lot of those messages are not that. Okay, so they're you capture interested people and you capture upset people. That's, personally, for my taste, it's a super aggressive strategy, and I don't think it's one that's going to be able to be in place like permanently, because I think people are going to get sick of it real soon. But right now it's new. Very few other people are doing it. And so it is still in its infancy, and it's got a long way to go before it hits a place where lots of people are turning it off because they're getting more angry responses than not. So Ylopo just has those support mechanisms in place that are really good. They don't technically build as good of a PPC website as their competitors, but they do other things so much better that I have to put them at number 2. Number 3 is Boomtown. You're looking at, I've been flipping back and forth from Boomtown. Now, Boomtown isn't quite as aggressive on the registration. Okay, you can look at a few different properties. They do have a better designed landing page than most other companies. It looks different, it acts different, they have their own mapping system in it. They've created a lot of proprietary technology, this cool, it's the same information that's available from the MLS, just presented differently. But those differences create a higher registration rate with their landing page. So this is a listing page, and you could very easily advertise this page on Facebook or anywhere else that you wanted to advertise it. And so somebody would hit this page. Now, another thing that Boomtown has that other people don't necessarily have is this ease of use, tour via video chat, tour in person. These are just ways to get somebody to register. See what I mean? That's it. They're telling you, though, that have these options. And a lot of developers haven't quite gotten to that place yet. Sierra Interactive has that feature. They're really the only ones. I do believe that Ylopo is working on something that would be similar, but I don't know that for sure. I don't know if it's in place or if it's not in place. I can just say that every lead generator that I know of is, like, in terms of an easy add to their pages, are looking for little buttons like this that basically say you want to tour the property via video chat or video. So that's definitely maybe something that affects registration. It certainly affects the overall presentation. Everything that you click on the page sends you down here. This company, unfortunately, is not as organized as they should be, because you would have the option of installing this, but you have to do this manually. You have the option of putting associates or an unassociate. This page would be far more effective if you personalized it with an image of an agent or a broker, but they haven't done it. So there's always that end thing that us as marketers, like guys that own these companies, get frustrated by, is that we put functionality out there and users don't use it, and it absolutely impacts conversion and effectiveness. So when I'm doing my reviews, I am oftentimes talking about how much does the lead generation company encourage you through tutorials and case studies to alter and adapt their products for better success. It is a really important feature that absolutely impacts your bottom line. If somebody's constantly reminding you to do a thing, even though you know it's in your best interest and you may just not have done it, it's important that somebody's reminding you, you need to do this. And if you do it, you will see a return, and thus the system will be more effective for you. Number 4 on the list is Cinc, Commissions Inc., for those that are not familiar. Now, Commissions Inc. has recently, would not even have made my list because their websites are just crappy. You can go to my, hold on. You can go to my article and you can see here, like, there's just, you can see this is an example of their sites. Their sites are very basic in comparison to what's available on the market. You can see what I mean. However, because they've recently added remarketing into their systems, and they're catching up to other companies in terms of the way that they market, I have once again added them here. They also have been a company that's predominantly relied on PPC. So they establish the company and basically say, if you want Cinc to work, you need to have a PPC budget. Now, all of these companies, whether it's Real Geek or Ylopo or Boomtown or Cinc, they're going to have different, or KvCORE, which is the 5th on my list, they're going to have different recommended budgets, but for the most part, they're all going to tell you, if you want to use them directly, that you have to have a $1,000 budget. And the reason for that is simple. All these companies charge you money to manage the PPC campaign. So it's just an additional layer of cost onto whatever it is that you're spending. So let's say Cinc, it's $1,000 a month to have the platform live. You're paying $1,000 just to be with Cinc, but then $500 to have one of their people manage your campaign, plus another $1,000 to advertise. So Cinc is an easy $2,500 in terms of making it all work. Boomtown, even more, $3,000 is probably what you're looking at. Real Geeks still charging $500 just like everybody else, but because their platform is so much less, you're $700 into with PPC, so $1,700 instead of $25. It's like $700 less per month, which is, to me, significant at least. KvCORE, same thing, gonna have a cost, and KvCORE is on my list. I've also done a deep KvCORE review. And most of my reviews are on the first page of Google for like KvCORE review, Commission Cinc review. Oftentimes, like this review kind of hovers on the first page for the company name, kind of goes on and off. So you could even maybe just Google KvCORE and find my review there. Within this, you can also see examples of their sites. Definitely, of all the websites available to you, one of the most basic looking. But it works similar in that you can have a strong URL for PPC, like we're gonna just get an area page here that will have the area name on it. And now this is what that page looks like. And then we can go into searching for properties, and we can potentially come in here and look at the property. Do you see how slow everything is moving? That's because this is all on the cloud. This is what I'm talking about when I start using their tools. It's slow. I'm not sure why it's not even opening. Like, you see what I mean? It's not as intuitive as other platforms in any way, shape, or form. I'm a guy that uses these tools all the time. If I'm having troubles with it, you have to figure that somebody who's not me is having even more troubles. So you're losing a lot of people on these pages due to the usability, which is why KvCORE oftentimes ranks lower than many of my other systems that I review. But again, the advantage is because they do have a system that is much easier to update, and they're globally changing their offering based on the fact that they're in the cloud. Now, it creates this slower response time that you're looking at, but it's not like it doesn't have cool features. It has a lot of features. You can see here, like, you're going to get like an app. You've got easy to share information, a slightly unusual listings details page. There are things here that, and if you download any of these things, obviously a signal is being sent to them. So they have little triggers and mechanisms that say that you can still make decent money. And I know EXP dealers, and I know lots of people using these systems. EXP has driven many of its agents to use KvCORE, primarily because EXP is a company based in the cloud. So there's all this synchronicity in terms of the service itself. And so for a certain number of you watching, and you're looking for a PPC system, it's not like based on my review you should throw them out as an option. There are strong reasons to consider them, which is why they're number 5 on my list. Now, just a quick thing, just once again using a site like mine, we are also set up in a way that you could direct somebody to a landing page. This site has driven PPC to it, and we've gotten like anywhere from a 1 to 2% conversion rate, which puts us in line with most of the big providers in terms of what the conversion rate is. The reason that I don't add myself to the list is because we're not really focused on it, and we're not going to force registration, and because of that, I am not really certain that you're going to have a consistent result across every single marketplace. It's not what the tools that I build are specifically designed for. Our main lead capture is this: blurred photos, and if you want to see the photo gallery, you click on this button. We're not going to force you to register with the site. I fear that in some markets, especially major metro markets, you'd have to force registration. I could turn it on client to client. I just don't know that I'd want to. Which leads me to my last comment. All these systems using PPC, even though those leads have a higher intent funnel, you're still looking right now in today's marketplace at about a 1 in 50 conversion rate. So if you're going to think about turning on PPC for any of these systems, please keep in mind that what you're looking for are fairly large numbers to get yourself to a place of ROI, which is why guys like me will constantly tell you you need about $1,000 budget, because not universally, but like a starting number it's about $1 per visitor, and you're looking at for about a 1% conversion rate. So if you're having to send 100 people in for $100 and you're getting a single conversion, you're most of the time looking at like a lead that would cost you $50 to $100. Now Ylopo has gotten it down to 3 to 6. I don't know that the lead is higher quality though, which is why Ylopo is number 2 on this list. They've gotten a really low cost of acquisition comparatively to what I just told you. There's lots of reasons for that. Tricky ways to target keywords, cheaper ways to target keywords, so on and so forth. There is a wide variety of lead conversion in here. But here's one of the things that I'm using for that math. Like you'll close 1 in 10, 1 in 20 off a site like this, even though our cost per acquisition might be 6, 7 times more. But even with that, I'm still not putting myself on the list, because I think overall, I will put myself here when we start talking about ROI. Because if all you're looking for is turning on a system, and maybe some of you are looking for something to keep newer salespeople busy, and if you are, these high volume systems, because there might be additional conversion in those numbers. Like if you have an actual real estate salesperson call 100 leads, and that person really calls them, I have no doubt that that person will generate a much stronger return than if you just have an ISA or you're relying on automated text or whatever the system is that you're using. There's no doubt that you will receive a 200 or 300% better conversion, which changes all those numbers based on the activity, on how you're working the lead. And so some of you might have that in place. You might have very aggressive, maybe a young sales force, maybe you're building a new company and you need something where you're just going to give people leads to work. And you're not doing so in bad faith. These are leads. They're just not great ones. But somebody who's determined and aggressive can turn mediocre into good. And there's no doubt that some of these systems, like even KvCORE, I've got a guy that has been on my podcast twice, and he uses KvCORE as his system, and he generates hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue off KvCORE and pay-per-click. So there's no doubt that it works, but he's also built a custom CRM. He's been at it for a long time. He's meticulous on his numbers. He does everything that I've talked about. Every single lead is called, not once, but 8 times. He's got it down. His name is Mitch Ryback. He's on my podcast, so if any of you get curious, he's an EXP broker. So if any of you get curious about Mitch or what he's doing specifically on KvCORE, look him up on the podcast section of my website. All right, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. All of you have a great day. And as with all of my videos, do me a favor, please thumbs up or like it if I did something helpful here.